Hey, how we doing out there today? Just a quick update announcement and asking you for your thoughts. Last week for the 1 year anniversary episode, we announced the beginning of our new written publication going live this Saturday, the Lo-Fi Weekly. Firstly, we're still going live with it. My first essay will drop on Saturday. This is unchanged. However, it turns out the name, the Lo-Fi Weekly, is sadly already in use. So I'm asking for suggestions from you. The obvious answer may be the weekly Lofi Poli Sci, which is probably what I'll start with. But I feel we can do better than that. Get at me with your thoughts. Welcome everyone to the Lo-Fi Poli Sci podcast. I'm your host, Michael Pickering. That's right, Lo-Fi's and low fidelity, low quality, in your face, messy as can be global news show. It's Tuesday, Lo-Fi Nation, and you know what that means. It's time for Tuesday's Top 10 list. And last week, we reached out to you for ideas on a list that you wanted to hear. And one of you answered. Veronica, thank you so much for sending in your topic. Today's Top 10 list. The 10 top tourist destination countries of 2019. And our data come from the United Nations World Tourism Barometer and Statistical Annex, collecting the actual number of tourists that arrive in each country around the world. And collectively in 2019, there were about 1.5 billion people that traveled outside of their countries for vacation and sightseeing. And before we start, you may even be asking, why 2019? Why not 2020? Why not 2021? And firstly, 2021 isn't finished yet, so we can't do it. And 2020? Well, that year was rubbished up by... Well, you know what happened, so the numbers as far as tourists traveling around the world wouldn't be truly representative of where most people go on a normal year under normal conditions. So 2019 was the last year that life, well, it was just life. So that's why we're doing 2019. Now to the list. Coming in at number 10, the United Kingdom, with 39.4 million tourists in 2019. Number 9, Germany, with 39.6 million tourists in 2019. Number 8, Thailand, with 39.8 million. Number 7, Mexico at 45 million. Number 6, Turkey at 51.2 million. Now to our top 5. Number 5, Italy at 64.5 million tourists in 2019. Number 4, China with 65.7 million tourists. Number 3, the United States with 79.3 million. Number 2, Spain with 83.5 million. And coming in at number 1, a 5 count to see if you can guess. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's France, with an estimation of around 89 million tourists entering the country in 2019 alone. Incredible, so many people going so many places. But now, as always, let's dive into the list and see what the numbers tell us. So first off, remember about 1.5 billion international tourists in 2019. And how many of those tourists were in our top 10 countries? About 1 out of every 3 tourists globally went to our top 10. That's right, whenever you add up all the numbers between all 10 countries, there's about 551 million people out there, out of that 1.5 billion. 1/3 of all international travelers just went to these 10 countries. That's a huge percentage. But that also means that 2/3 of the international tourists of the world, well, they went somewhere else. And what else do we see? We see 5 European countries on this list. That's 50% of the top 10 list. Though this is realistically a result of how close European countries are and how the free movement of travel is allowed in Europe. So theoretically not too surprising. Though I do have a question. Why France is number 1? Give me your thoughts on that one. I'm curious. Okay, this list is all good and swell, and yes, I said good and swell. But what about now? What about the future? Well, the short answer for now is that many of these places are no-go zones for most ordinary people, for obvious reasons, therefore we don't need to delve into them. But what about the future? The future? I'm really quite curious. How will international tourism be affected by all of this? Will the trend of international tourism still gravitate toward these top 10 countries from 2019? Or will people travel to new and different places? Will people decide to travel to specific destinations based on a new criteria in comparison to before? It's hard to say, really. But for lots of reasons, I could see these 10 countries sticking around as the top 10 destination countries. because many of them are business destinations, and people a lot of times mix business with pleasure and go on vacation via company expenses. So for that reason, yeah, I think these countries could come back as the top 10 of 2022. But a special list now, because our lo-fi listener out there asked, what's my wish list? My very own top 10 countries I'd like to visit 2022? Oh, and in no particular order, by the way, except for my number one. That's a solid number one. My list: Russia, Hong Kong, Belarus, Myanmar, Thailand, China, Libya, Egypt, Venezuela, and Antarctica. Now that's my wish list. But I'll tell you what, the reason I can't go to these places at the moment has nothing to do with the 19, and has everything to do with what's going on in the world today. These are 10 places for real I have dreamed of going for a very long time. Each of them with their own beauty, culture, and cuisine. Oh my goodness, the food in these places. That's another list altogether. And perhaps one day, though, I will get to visit all of them. I have hopes. I really do. And some of you out there, I know you may be saying, oh, come on, you can go to Antarctica anytime. There's no revolution or anything else going on there. And you know what? You're right. But it is against international law, and it goes against every principle and the sovereignty of the Greater Antarctic Empire of the Penguin Accords of 2025. And yes, that means the accords have not been written yet because I have not brought them before the United Nations. Yet. Though it is illegal to visit Antarctica unless you are a scientist and you get special permission to... Wait a second. Oh. Epiphany. Light bulb. Who is a scientist among us? That's right, a new list. Get at me with top 10 research designs for Antarctica. Come up with a good one. You can co-author it. We can go as a team for the first Lofi Poli Sci Penguin Podcast 2022. Oh, the political implications of penguin societies integrated with podcasting. There's so many good reasons that we can now go to Antarctica legally and without breaking the accords. Oh, happy days for us. And thank you to the someone for today's topic. And that's this Tuesday's Top 10 list. If you want to get access to the weekly Lofi Poli Sci, get at me. We publish the first essay Saturday. You have a top 10 list you want to hear? Get at me. You have good news to share with us? Share it. Interested in being a co-host? Interested in a flashcast, live stream, episode takeovers? Always remember that Lofi Poli Sci is more than just me. It's the we that we be. Peace and well-being to all my human beings out there. Much love and always the best. Pickering, signing off.